I have a little joke to start us out with, and it's because I have a story today, that the Bible verse that goes along today is one of those healing stories, and there's so many healing stories in the Bible, right? They kind of all run together after a while, don't they? And so I thought there's got to be some jokes on that, and there are. There's a whole bunch of them, but I only have a couple, I promise. So I love this one. It said, at a local community center last night, there was a healing event, but it was absolute trash. Even the guy in the wheelchair stood up and walked out. And then I like the ones that are loosely based on something that has something to do with the lesson. And this is the one that I found worked. I thought it was cute anyway. The people heard about this healing river and that it had this immense power to heal. And so they would all gather around the river and they would take turns walking actually through the river. People would go and they'd only be about, waist high. So they gathered around and they watched, and there was a lady with a sick child, and she carries the child in her arms and she goes across the river and she comes out the other side and the child is smiling and it's healed. And then another person, a blind man, he goes through and they kind of send him on his way and he's walking through, he gets to the other side, and by the time to the other side, he can see. And the third guy goes in with a wheelchair. It takes him a little bit longer to get his wheels through. But when he gets to the other side, he raises his hands and says, "Praise the Lord," and he comes out with brand new shiny rims on the wheelchair. It just goes to show that a miracle to me might not be a miracle to you. And sometimes it's baby steps, right? That's the part that I really related to, was that sometimes it's baby steps. It might not be total transformation overnight, and yet I somehow tend to get there. It sometimes feels like peeling back an onion. I read that we make 35,000 decisions every day. And I feel like as a teacher in the job, I do even more of that. I feel like before lunch, I've already had a chance for enlightenment about 25 times. Because I teach middle school at that. So that's the way that it goes. But I don't know if it's true that we really make that many decisions every day, but I know that at least half of mine have to do with the choice of whether I'm going to choose love or fear. I don't know if you would agree with that. Does that sound like that resonates with you too? I feel like there's a lot, and I feel like I'm doing it all the time. The good news is, just like in that joke, we're not being called to be enlightened 35,000 times every day. Sometimes it's just those baby steps. And today what I'm talking about is one little honest shift at a time can get us to a point where we're doing so much better in our lives. And one of the things that came up for me automatically was being in line at the grocery store. Now, this is new to me because I've Instacarted since COVID. I have not stepped foot in a grocery store, but maybe a couple times. And I love to Instacart. And I'm thinking, okay, so I'm on the road to retiring from my teaching job. And I'm like, well, does the retired me Instacart everything or just certain things? And I'm like, the retired me probably stops on the way home from work to get something at the store. And maybe Instacart's the bigger grocery list, right? Because it does add up. So here I am in Kroger's, and I'm in the line, and I'm like, oh my gosh, now I remember why I Instacart. Because I'm in the line, right? And I picked the shortest line, and then all the other lines are going faster. Do you ever have that happen? Like, wait, I picked the shortest line, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, I'm one person ahead of me, but my person has like a price check, and she knows the cashier, and they're talking, and I'm like, and then all these other people are going, and there's not very many anymore. They just don't have as many lines open as before COVID. Like, I'm thinking, why do I always choose the wrong line? Or why doesn't the store hire enough people and schedule them in so these lines go faster? Am I the only one that does this? Okay, so I thought I had gotten better with this at one point. Well, sometimes I can be. Like, with phones and stuff, I try not to be on my phone. Anyway, a 5-minute wait in line turns into the crash of civilization. Everything has fallen apart. The world is just not the same post-COVID anymore. So, but the fact is simple. I'm waiting in line, right? Going back to the fact, it's just a line. And so the state of consciousness that I'm in, as I'm in that line, I could have been like, oh, okay, I'm in the line, and it's a chance for me to do some breathing and think about my day and send some people good time. But that was not the state of consciousness I was coming from. I was coming from, I'm going to be late. I've got stuff to do. I've got to get dinner ready by this time, and I got a Zoom call by this time, and I got all this other stuff. But it's the state that we're expressing from that changes our response and changes our vibration to what we experience in that thought. Speaking of standing in line, I have a Bible standing in line story. And it's a healing story from Mark 2. And in this story, Jesus had come to Capernaum, the big church there. And so everybody was gathered for healing, for him preaching, for all of the things. And there was so many there. There's so many people crowded that not only the inside was crowded, it was crowded all around, and there was a huge line. And 4 men were carrying in a paralyzed man who had come from very far just to see Jesus because they wanted this man to be healed. Can you imagine traveling, carrying this man, traveling all that way? What state would you be in? Think about it. Would you be angry? Maybe you feel doubtful, like, well, this will never happen. Maybe hopeless or unworthy, like, have you ever felt that? You get someplace like that and it's like, oh, I guess I wasn't worth it. Like, I'm not worthy enough for Jesus. I'm not worthy enough for healing. Maybe it wasn't in the cards. It's a sign. So being in those lower states can change how we actually deal with this. Metaphysically, Jesus is the spiritual I am. So it's like I'm trying to get some part of me that's not healed to that spiritual I am. Have you ever felt that way? Like, I'm trying to get this part of me that I want healed, and I know there's something greater inside me. I know that it's there. It's just like a big jump from here to really feel like I can open up to that healing. And then you get there, you say, oh, I know, I can take it to this healing, and there's all this thought. That's the people. The people waiting in the line and the people crowding, those are the hamster wheel of thoughts that run up here like a wheel. And they go constantly. Worry thoughts, thoughts about whether you're unworthy, thoughts about what I should do, like how do I fix this? How do I get through these people? Okay, I don't know about you, but I find myself wanting to solve this problem. Okay, how can we get these people to move? And how can we organize so I can get him through into the church? And those thoughts also can be the wheel that keeps us going. And so it's the state that we're coming from, this belief system that we have. But if we really want to try to figure out the secret to what has to happen to get the paralyzed man to Jesus, we have to think a little bit more. So if we go to that first slide, it was actually Nikola Tesla that said this, who, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. So the idea is, if we want to know the secret, it's not in all that thought. How can we formulate a way in? How can we make these people move? How can we make a way in? I mean, the place is surrounded. It's raising our vibration. And we often talk about raising our consciousness. So we start thinking, okay, well, what level of consciousness am I in? And that's the wrong question. The right question is, what state am I expressing from? Because it's kind of like the radio. All of the vibrations, all the feels, and all of the frequencies are available to us all of the time. Like a radio channel. We can churn. We just need to know, what state am I currently in? So it's just information. It's not a spiritual report card. I'm going to repeat that. It is not a spiritual report card when we are down on a lower vibration and we are in doubt and fear. And it is good information. It's a good place to start. If we don't notice where we are, how can we do anything about it? Have you ever been stuck down there and you don't even realize it? For days, eating Doritos, watching Netflix? That's me. That's me. We go to the next slide. This is, I know it's a little busy, it is a representation of David Hawkins' work. It's not completely his work, it's based on Dr. David Hawkins. And specifically, it's the book I'm going to be starting in the next series that I do on letting go. And it's showing the lower vibrations of shame, guilt, apathy, which is actually correlates to overwhelm. Did you know that? Apathy would correlate to overwhelm, fear, and anger. And if you notice the tipping point, the bottom part are destructive. They are things that really suck up our energy. They do have energy to themselves. It's not like zero energy. But they are things that take more of our energy. The tipping point is courage. It's being able to have the confidence to know and the openness and the willingness to go above. So the fear and anger and unworthiness that they were feeling as they were trying to take the paralyzed man in, they weren't bad. These are normal, unavoidable states. We're actually wired to have them because this is how our biology tells us where we're at. It's like a warning system. We're just not meant to be stuck there for long periods of time. We're meant to process those feelings and let them go. In the somatic class I had, they described it as like a roller coaster. All animals in nature have this roller coaster that your nervous system is supposed to follow, where it gets heightened and there's heightened states of excitement, whether it's good or bad, and then it drops back down, and it's supposed to be able to make this roller coaster. And this is just information. What we get caught up in is this resistance trap on the bottom. If we look at fear, fear says, I'll be in this line forever and I'll never make it on time to my Zoom meeting. It tells the people waiting for Jesus that everything is going to go wrong and the paralyzed man will never be healed. That part of us will never be healed. Anger says, at the grocery line, these people are incompetent. Can't they just do the price check and go through? This is so unfair. To the people trying to get the healing for the man in Capernaum, it says, this is unfair. This man can't even walk. Can't they make some room? Shouldn't there be a process for people like this to get through? It's unfair. But does that really do much? Does it really get anything done? So from a higher vibration like courage, it says things like, I can handle this delay, I can compensate, I can make adjustments, I can give a phone call to that person on the Zoom meeting to let people know, could you text people for me? Let me know that I'm going to be a little late. I can adjust my dinner. I could have my husband make dinner, which would mean we go to Chick-fil-A. Or I could just, tell people I'm going to be a little late. I could eat on the Zoom call. Look at all the things I could do. And so getting to a higher vibration in the story is represented by the next step, the people in Capernaum, what they did, and I don't know how they did it. I don't think they did much figuring. They knew they needed to reach a higher vibration, and in the Bible, that's reached by actually going to a higher place. So going up the scale. So they went onto the roof, and they lowered him in through a hole in the roof. And it just represents us going to a higher place. Remember, higher is not necessarily better. It definitely feels better, but this is not a spiritual report card. What this means is, I don't want you to think just because they climbed higher means we have to climb higher. This is not about struggling to get there. Hawkins, I love the way he describes it in Letting Go, because instead of trying to climb and struggle to the top, like I gotta get to love, he describes this more like letting ourselves rise. When we're in anger and fear, it's like holding a giant beach ball under the water. How much work and effort do you need to do to hold that ball under? A lot, right? It would be so much easier to let go of whatever is creating the anger and the fear. And the beach ball naturally rises up. So in the letting go process, that is what it's all about. What we're actually doing is figuring out what state am I expressing in, what feelings are coming up. I'm going to sit with them, kind of like we did in meditation, and let them naturally dissipate. So in the process, we would notice what happened. So say you're stuck in line. Let's go back to that. Has everybody been stuck in a line and wanting to get out, or stuck in traffic? That's the line that is usually, it's me coming here on the way to church. And it's like, oh my gosh, Kim Lee is not there this morning. I have to be there to put all the stuff out. And I'm late, and then I'm going the back way, and there's this car. It's going like 20 miles an hour. I'm like, I will never be there on time. So wherever you're stuck, whenever you're in line, get that into your mind and just kind of put yourself in that and notice, what state are you in? Are you in anger, fear, overwhelm? And then you just kind of allow it to be like, is it possible to sit with this? Instead of having it here inside my body, is it possible to sit with it? Like I'm on a park bench, and it's going to sit here right beside me. So to do that, he suggests dropping down into your body. Where do you feel it getting tense? When you think I'm going to be late, or this is crazy unfair, what is wrong with this person in front of me, can't drive? Where do you feel that in your body? And then you just sit with that without judgment. It's not about fixing. It's never about getting rid of it. Instead, just notice that if you can sit with it kind of beside you instead of inside you. Like, I like to visualize a little me sitting there on the bench with me. But when I first started doing this, I visualized a little cartoon character. And that was always somehow easier. And then notice, can you feel a softening in your jaw or your chest or your shoulders? Can you feel opening a space at all? Do you feel a shift? And then finally, maybe not today, since we're all together and I'm kind of going fast, but could you get to a still point? So you let that go until you get to a point of stillness. And that would be a turning point of maybe contentment or neutrality in the middle. And so he says we let those feelings run themselves out. And basically, we've allowed them to process. So we're allowing those feelings to come up and process. And then this is a big question, with a little bit of extra space, even if you didn't get all the way through it, what's possible? With that little bit of extra space in that line, what's possible? Is it possible I could have a little peace in the line, even though I'm waiting? Is it possible that I could ask someone for help, like making a phone call because I know I'm going to be late? Is it possible that I could just be grounded? Is it possible that I could feel lighter or freer? What is possible when you are going through that? So the idea is to not continue to hold down the beach ball, to allow that to gradually arise on its own. I remember when I very first was introduced to this, it had to have been 26, 27 years ago, I guess. No one told me that this was what it was. And I hear that the Sedona method, I don't know much about it, but I hear it's very similar. So I don't know if anybody knows anything about that. I got this at a therapist's office. I didn't know what this was. He gave me a piece of paper with a lot of these words and a line in the middle, and they were all kind of jumbled, like they didn't make much of a pattern. And he told me to sit with my feeling and hold the paper and drop down into my body, and then after I felt in my body, look at and tell me, what do you feel? And I would say, anger. And he'd say, okay, now stay with that. And just let it be there and feel it in your body. Did it change any? Did it shift? And they say, yeah, it shifted. I'm scared. Did it shift? Yeah, I feel powerless. Did it keep shifting? And it would just keep shifting. Those emotions are kind of hard to see on the side because his was a different diagram. It looked different than this. And then finally, after some time, I stopped and I'm like, I wonder, and he started laughing. He's like, what is that on the paper? And I was above the line on curious. And it had run itself out. And I realized the power of this early in my marriage. I was an only child. I didn't have a lot of capacity for a lot of things, like a lot of people and a lot of noise, and then people taking my stuff all the time. I had never experienced any of that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, talking about who am I? Like, I felt like in a totally new world. And I remember I had all of these things. It's kind of like they had all built up. David Hawkins calls them a reservoir. It's like all the water, all these stones had built up in my reservoir, and they had reached the top. And I was at my last stone, like one more drop of stress, the things that I had built up and not processed was going to tip me over. And it happened one day when I was supposed to go to a wedding, and my husband wouldn't come with me. And I got lost on my way back. And then who do I blame it on? My husband. And I was all of these things, and I pulled over to the side of the road, and I did this method. I mean, I was beside myself at the time, and I let it process. And I was caught on, we were talking about this, the 275 loop, it just keeps going around. I was caught on the loop, and this was before GPS. Like, I didn't know where I was going, and it was dark, and I finally just like, you know what? I pulled over to the side. I let this go. I let go of all of the anger and I was scared. I was scared because I had never been in these places in my marriage. I was afraid it wasn't going to work out at that point because I had never dealt with all of this. And I got to that quiet point, and it came to me, what's possible? It's possible that I don't even have to go home tonight. There's the exit from my parents' house. I'm going to go there. And so I went to my mom and dad's house, and I think he had gone to sleep. He didn't even know I was gone. I got up at like 5:30 in the morning and went home, and he didn't even know I didn't come home, which is a little scary also, but I wasn't mad about it because I had already processed some of that reservoir. Like, it wasn't the next thing. I hadn't just covered it up. I had processed that out. And I could deal with the next thing because my reservoir had drained down some, and I had some space to process it. And so we do get to the point where we can't. And on the next slide, I put some things. What if you can't? If you can't do those things we talk about, raises your vibration, get into nature, take your shoes off, get grounded on the earth. Gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. What can you be in gratitude for? Be in service to others, exercise and do some activity. Do things that you love to do, like painting or singing or dancing. Meditate. Be conscious of the words you speak. Stop complaining. Eat fruits and vegetables if that makes you feel good. Use high vibrational plant aromatherapy. Use crystals or bowls or whatever does it for you. But come back to it. Don't let that reservoir stay at the top. Because what I found was that I could do these things and still have that reservoir about ready to overflow. So it took letting go and processing in order to me to get the point where that was controllable. And if you want to take a unity point of view, because Hawkins isn't unity, he's based in spirituality and new thought, but he has other things. I think it's also the same way that I would hear Catherine Ponder say it on the next slide. She would say, bless it. And to bless means to bring forth good in a situation, condition, or personality, whether there seems to be any good in it or not. And this is why I say it's the same thing, because when she taught us to do this, when I would read her work, what she'd say is you would do this until it felt neutral to you. You do it until all of those bad vibrations at the bottom that keep us, that we call bad, that feel bad, that keep us under the water, have brought us to the top. So we hear things like, bless this mess. It's not really a mess. There's really an order or a purpose. There's really a pattern underneath there. And we can't always see it. And so instead, we bless it, meaning we know that God is in all things. That's our number one principle, is in all things. So if you need to, you could say, this is the good blessing that she does, and this is perfect. I would take a picture of this. I've used it so many times. On the next slide. I bless you, and I bless the goodness of God working in and through you. And this is for a person or a thing. I bless you, and I bless the goodness of God working in and through you. And I would say that after I read Catherine Ponder, it's been years ago, it's been maybe 14 years ago when I started reading her. This was one of the very first books I read and had this blessing in it, and I would do that the same way. I would use it as a still point, waiting to get to that still point and allowing myself to be with the emotions. I'm not trying to get rid of them, saying that they're all good, it's all good, it's all good, good, good. No, I would say there's good in this feeling I'm feeling. There's good in this uncertainty, there's good in this anger, there's good in whatever it is I'm sitting with beside me on this bench right now. And I'm telling it, I bless you. And I bless the goodness of God working in and through you in no matter the situation. So this week, our affirmation is, on the next slide, you can say this with me. I bless this moment and the good always possible here. I am open to divine wisdom guiding my next step. Bless it. Bless it. Let it go. And if you want to know a little bit more, there's a workshop after church, and there's a class on Zoom starting this Wednesday. You can sign up in the lobby for the class, and I'll send you everything you need to get started in the letting go. I'm part of a letting go community. I have been for the last 12 years, and it is a thing that I do without stop because it's not something you learn, it is a practice. Thank you for letting me be with you here today, and namaste. The Christ light in me sees the Christ light in you. Namaste.